Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Harmony Foundation podcast series, and I'm pleased today to be joined with Frank Zakta, Executive Director for Cornerstone Program out of Centennial. Welcome.
Hi.
It's good to have you here.
It's great to be here.
Well, before we get into talking about Cornerstone, we're interested in learning a little bit more about your background and how you got into the field of addiction treatment. So would you share with us a little bit about how you started this whole journey of working with people in recovery?
Sure. I mean, it's simple. I got sober. I actually came into the program first in 1982. I wasn't really ready, so I went back out and did a little more research and came back into the program in 1983. And I got sober in a program similar to this. It was kind of its great-great-grandparent in St. Louis in 1983. By the time I was 10 months sober, I was on staff. It was a small, young program at the time. Long story short, by the time I was 2.5 years sober, I was a director of the program. And I ran that as a nonprofit, free program with evening meetings and social functions on the weekend for teens and young adults and their parents. And I did that for about 5 years, and then I branched out and started my own program, basically doing the exact same thing but with an intensive outpatient fee-based component. And I've owned and run that program ever since. I did it in Missouri for about 20 years, and I moved to Denver in 2004.
And so then you took over Cornerstone, which really was it Cornerstone at the time?
Yeah, it was the Cornerstone Program at the time.
Okay.
And I took it over then.
Okay.
And I've been here and doing that ever since.
And so Cornerstone is an outpatient program. It's very deeply trenched in 12-step,
Yes.
correct? And the primary audience that you work with is young adults and adolescents.
Yeah, it's 13 to 25-ish.
Okay.
And we say ish because it's really developmental. I've met some 23-year-olds with a wife and 2 kids working at a defense contractor that really has no business on our program because they're dealing with adult problems. I've also met some 27-year-olds living in mom's basement that were fairly appropriate. So that's why we say ish.
Ish,
But yeah, so it's teens and young adults. And the philosophy is enthusiastic sobriety. How do you have fun staying sober? You know, my joke is I always say getting sober was easy, liking it's the trick.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
And the point is, how can we get to a place that we like it so much that I wouldn't trade it? Which to most new young people is a completely foreign concept. But because we've got this cool long-term support group, they can see this whole group of teenagers and young adults who have 1 year and 2 years sober, who are having a blast. And they know they couldn't talk that guy into getting high. So there's actually an example. You know, I didn't believe it existed because it had never been in my field of vision. I didn't know any sober people, much less. I mean, I knew some sober people that were in the chess club or something, the geeks and people I wouldn't hang out with. But nobody that was like me that used to get high like I did, who was sober and loved it. I had never met anyone like that. So it was cool to get to see a whole group of people having that much fun, staying sober. And it was that attractive. That's kind of the idea.
So what does that look like then? So when you have somebody that's coming into the program for the first time that's, say, 17 years old and used to being a part of the drug culture, how do you help them shift that thinking around sobriety being a positive and fun experience?
Well, first, I mean, when somebody's new, I won't just take them into treatment. I mean, sometimes I have a parent that wants to hand me a check, and I'd say no. One of the advantages that we have is that support group, and we kind of insist that it's almost like they get to take a test drive. You know, sometimes treatment's so scary and kind of intimidating, and they watch TV and they have this awful idea of what rehab looks like. And to me, that makes it look like a funeral, especially if you're young. It does not look fun or attractive in any way. So I'll insist that they come to a support group meeting, and I've got about 60 kids right now in the support group, and that their parents come to a parent meeting. So they actually are making an informed decision because it's a big commitment to getting sober. And usually, actually, once they've seen it, they're willing to give it a shot. Then it's a very long process. You know, and our intensive outpatient is pretty intense. It's 1 to 5 Monday through Friday. 3 to 4 months, 12 to 16 weeks is the average length.
Are they in the evenings?
1 to 5 Monday through Friday in the afternoon.
Okay.
And it's a pretty big commitment. But the cool thing is they're in that group, and then that's when that whole conversation starts to take place. It's how do you actually get sober and like it? And we're kind of experts at that.
That's good.
Yeah.
So You work to address addiction with maybe your 17-year-old. What are you typically seeing right now with the young adults coming in and the adolescents coming in with addiction? Is it different than when it was 20 years ago?
In some ways, because heroin's a lot more popular. Mm-hmm. Opiates are a lot more popular than they were back 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. When I got sober, heroin was pretty much nothing. I mean, heroin was very rare. But now it's much more common, I think, for a lot of different reasons that are beside the point. Mm-hmm. But it is much more common. And we're in Colorado, so pot's legal, so it's considered health food and medicine, and it's like kale and blah, 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 blah. So those take, a lot of conversations, because for a lot of young people, pot's a staple. But most people are polysubstance abuse. It's my drug of choice is yes. Mm-hmm.
That's interesting. I haven't heard that, but that's true.
Right.
That's true. Well, so this is not your first time to Harmony. However, you've been on campus before.
Oh, yeah.
What is it about Harmony that helps you make a decision about sending someone to our program?
It's still 12-step. I feel like Harmony is still treatment. I've sent a lot of people to Harmony over the years. I've had a lot of alumni come back from Harmony over the years, one way or another. And I at least know that they have actually been through residential and have some recovery under their belt and some understanding of what they're trying to do. It's not just a mill or a warehouse or like they're actually getting treatment, they're actually getting some really good counseling, and they've heard of a step.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and we certainly want to continue building a partnership with Cornerstone, who clearly has the same philosophies that we do. So if someone were listening today and they wanted to access services at Cornerstone, how could they get in touch with you?
Simply call.
Okay.
Our number is 303-690-0082. And you can call and just ask for Frank. Okay. And I'm happy to talk to him.
Great.
If I'm not there, they can talk to Tyler, who's also a counselor with us. And it just starts with an appointment. The appointment's free. Because if we're not the right place, then we shouldn't be the place that you come to. So the point is to come in and have that appointment and see the program and get to know it a little bit, and then decide, is this a good option for our family? Because we also involve parents. We have a parent support group program, and we ask that parents come to at least one support group meeting a week, because it has to be that sense of community, that it's the whole family, that it's young people, but it's also parents involved. And on a long-term basis, that ends up being a pretty cool deal.
It does.
Yeah, but it's as simple as a phone call.
Great. Well, thank you, Frank, for taking the time to visit with us.
Thank you for having me.